Okay, in recent years, and this is a bit, I guess it's all serious we're talking about this evening, but something that's kind of coming up in the news at the moment. In recent years, we've seen a lot of Christian leaders and Christian musicians and even people within the church leaving the church in droves. And the recent Rabbi Zacharias scandal, you may have kind of heard about that and seen all of the stuff that's come out in the news recently. That's shocked a lot of people because he was a very well-respected man. He had a huge following, one of the largest apologists stroke evangelists in the world. And we've kind of discovered all the things that he's been up to, which is absolute wickedness and depravity. So kind of, from your point of view, what's going on in the church at the moment for all of this to be kicking off? Is it a lack of proper teaching, education? Is it a false gospel? Is there such a thing as true and false converts? I mean, there's a whole lot to unpick here, but what's your take on it?
Okay, all right. Okay, well, there are two categories here. I mean, you mentioned Rabbi Zacharias, and it's very sad indeed for his family. He should have known better. I think we all 100%. Agree he should have known better. There is no excuse for that. But I think there are other people who are walking away from Christ that couldn't have known better. Apparently, they missed something really important here, right? So we're talking about apologists, people who are up there who know the answers to those questions and should run from temptation. And we're talking about some people who just simply don't know the answer to basic understanding of biblical truths, right? So to me, this is incredibly important. This is what apologetics is all about, to be able to give answers to questions. So it's so important. I run a monthly apologetics class over Zoom. I used to do it in person in our church, but I'm doing it over Zoom now because of the circumstances with COVID, and it works out really well. Now, this is serious problem. So addressing it from those leaders who are walking away from the faith due to their, I've read some of those things, and it's shocking. They're walking away from the faith for reasons that you and I would consider, wow, this is basic Christianity 101. How would you do that? So apparently, I came across a survey not too long ago that says 88% of children raised in evangelical homes, so these are people who are raised in churches and Christian homes, leave church at the age of 18, never to return, which is really, really shocking, right? And apparently the figures are much worse now, because the figure I had here was from 2002. It's much worse now. And I'm told that other people came up with other surveys, and it says nearly 3 out of 5 young Christians, right? They're calling themselves Christians, disconnect from their churches after the age of 15. What's going on? So this is really bad. Even Bart Ehrman, we talked about him just a minute ago, right? He's a well-known American New Testament scholar, walked away from Christ. Because of what? Because he couldn't reconcile the problem of evil and suffering that he could see in the world with an all-powerful and loving God, right? I don't know if you knew the reason why I walked away from him, but this is it, right? Now, knowing the answer to this question should be the basic Christianity stuff, right? How could he have missed that study in his Bible study, right? That is kind of like the most basic thing you can do. Have you heard of Charles Templeton?
He was with Billy Graham, right? He was more prominent than Billy Graham, I think, at one point, and then
absolutely,
same thing happened.
They did crusades together, right? He lost his faith. He went to the seminary because he couldn't reconcile the Bible with questions he had. And he lost his faith. That should never have happened, right? I think studying apologetics should be one of the highest priorities for the church. The Bible says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. It says that for a reason, right? It says that for a reason. But how would you train them, right? How would you train them? I think the Bible is pretty clear on that. There's a famous verse in the Bible, which I'm sure you know. It's 1 Peter 3:15. Tells us, always be ready to give a defense to everyone who asks you the reason for the hope that's in you. Well, always. That's pretty done deal, right? Always. And always give it to everyone and give answers. And the word answers here, or defense, is used, that's where we get our apologia from in the Greek version. That's how apologetics came about. Actually, this next one is even harsher. I don't know if you've come across 2 Corinthians 10:5. It says, it makes even a stronger point. It says, we are to destroy arguments and every lofty opinion against the knowledge of God, and take every thought captive to obey Christ. Now, I can come up with verse after verse commanding us commanding us to give answers, correcting those who are in opposition. That's 2 Timothy 2. And more, so that you ought to know how to answer. You're supposed to know how to answer people. And there are many more verses. We can talk about contending for the faith and so on. So in our church, the one I go to, we have a monthly session called Answers, where we teach apologetics and give answers to difficult questions. The one I just said, we do it through Zoom now, so that everyone is equipped. There is no excuse, right? This is not just so that they know how to defend their faith when it comes up to other people, but so that they themselves are confident in knowing what the Bible is saying. Teach them the Bible. I really want to urge and recommend every church to make this a priority in the same way as preaching is important every Sunday morning. And you know what? I mean, our ministry, Living Waters, we don't replace the church. You know that. We work in we complement the church. I'm happy to include people who want to be part of this apologetic study we do on a monthly basis, for them to join us. We encourage people to be part of a church. We encourage people to be part of a family so that they grow. So we complement the church in this way. That's why we have these materials. That's why we have things to help people to keep growing and become strong and walk in their faith and know how to defend their faith and know how to share it effectively. So it's all part of our ministry. People are more than welcome to join us if they're interested.
Very, very good. And could you give people some information where they can kind of join you on that? How would they get hold of you for that?
Okay, right. The way it works is that this is to do with the training, right?
Just the Zoom meeting, right? The Zoom meetings.
Meeting.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Every month I set up a new Zoom meeting, and therefore people email me and say, can you include me in this? And I send them an email and say, this is the meeting happening once a month. Usually it's on the first Tuesday, and the same session is repeated on the Thursday, so that people can choose between Tuesday and Thursday to make it easy for them. It's always 7:30 in the evening, so it works out kind of early in the morning-ish if it's California or places like that, so it works for them. It works for us in the evening. If you're in France, where it's an hour later at some point during the year, that still is okay. So it tends to work really well. They can choose one of those two, and I send an invitation to them. So they send me their email, I send them an invitation. The only thing I ask them to do, because there is limited space, is for them to tell me whether they're coming or not. And if I don't hear from people, I assume they're not interested. Sure. And then I remove them from the list. So I just need them to say they're interested, even if they're not coming, so I continue sending them the invitation. But it's a new invitation every month. New invitation, and that's it. I need their email address. I send their name and email address. I send them the invitation. They respond to say they're coming or not. And usually there is limited space because I don't want to be overcrowded, so I can communicate back and forth with people, make it easy. I set a limit of about 40-ish maximum, because otherwise it becomes a bit, you can't control it.
A bit impersonal, yeah.